if you've got a boat going down a street and you're not in Venice, something's up.
Selling tours.
Right.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 475 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carden. What's up, Donna?
Look at there. We're almost to $5. $4.75.
I know. Almost to 500 episodes.
I know. It's kind of weird. I don't know. We need to get back to, are we going to keep doing this?
I know. This thing's lasted longer than my first marriage.
I feel so honored.
I've been with you longer than my first wife.
That was a good one. Took me by surprise there.
Yeah. All right, folks. Today we're going to be talking about the checking your facility access controls and talking about physical. Beer. You know that word? We're going to be talking about physical security, which is something often overlooked. Everybody's thinking about digital security and don't think about the easy stuff, which is just lock something up.
I know. You know, there is 3 levels of safeguards: administrative, physical, and technical.
Yep.
And one must do them all.
Mm-hmm. And, it's even though it's I think the easier part of it, because you don't have to have technical knowledge to lock a door or a file cabinet or whatever, but it's still a problem, still a big problem. So we'll talk about that today. But before we dive into that, we want to say thank you to those who listened faithfully, not like, well, never mind. I'll stay away from that. And for those who want to share this out, we appreciate that. Do that. Help a brother out. You can find out more about us at helpmewithhipaa.com, where you can find Donna and my day jobs, where we make money to do this for free. All right. Let's get into it today. Let's talk about checking your facility access controls.
Yeah, this is the cybersecurity newsletter from OCR. They do, if you haven't gone out and signed up for their listserv where they publish these things, I would recommend it. That, or at least, go out and check on them from time to time, because they usually are telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
When yes, that's the point of a newsletter, is to tell you something. I get that. But often something has happened that caused them to decide to do. It happens to us all the time. Something happens, we do an episode. Just saying. That's why we kind of try to pay attention.
It reminds me of a professor I had once, that every time he would cover something that was definitely going to be on the exam or test, he would say, "It would behoove you to know." Mm-hmm. And anytime he said that, everybody grabbed their pen and started writing. So that's what these newsletters are. It's like, it would behoove you to know.
Yeah, to at least think about this, because you're about to hear something, or they're seeing a bit more of them than they were. But there's usually something. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting that this popped up, because you're right. Look at us. We usually talk about there being a technical intrusion, not a physical one. But not only do you have to worry about, that stuff, but, you give people access to stuff, and what do you get a brand new employee and you give them a key to come and go as they please, and there's no tracking of them. It's probably not going to work out long term. Mm-hmm. Something going to happen.
It could be problematic.
Yeah, we'll call it that. All right, then let's talk about what they talk about. I thought it was interesting. Their headline was, now remember, this is to people who are supposed to be doing HIPAA already, supposed to be doing it. And the headline of their newsletter was, HIPAA security rule facility access controls. What are they and how do you implement them?
Yeah. If we have to start with what are they?
Yeah. So I'm going to put that in our next boot camp. That'll be what we'll do a session on. What are they and how should you implement them? Physical security. We got nothing else to do in the boot camp. If we covered everything in the boot camp we needed to cover, it would be at least 5 days.
I'm thinking we just follow the military and do an 8 or 12 week boot camp.
Oh, you and I wouldn't survive that.
It feels like 8 weeks by the time we're done. I'm telling you.
I know. We have to stay focused and ready for any question in any direction that we may go. That's a lot of energy on top of what we're sharing. So anyway, go ahead. What?
I was just going to say, I mean, just even when you're talking and presenting at the boot camp, I have to pay so close of attention because at any moment you could go, ain't that right, David? And then I'm usually looking at Krista going, see, leave me alone so I can pay attention.
Blame Krista. Yeah, or you'll say something and I'm not paying attention, and then somebody will ask me a question about it. And I'm like, what did he say? Anybody want to tell me what he said?
Well, see, that's a compliment that no longer do you have to pay attention to what I'm saying. You're confident that I'm not going to say something stupid.
I know, that's right. I have 100% trust in your knowledge that you have to listen to this crap from me every week. And it doesn't require you to listen to the podcast. We don't listen to it. So anyway, although I still like that story where you were in the beginning, you were listening to some of the originals when you were driving.
Yeah. Yeah. I was driving. I think we're going on vacation or something. I don't know. We were driving on the interstate and my wife's with me and I'm listening to the podcast. And at one point in the podcast, you was like, so what do you think about that, David? And I just started talking. I started answering you. And I'm like, oh, wait. It's the podcast.
Lori's like, what are you doing?
Exactly. I'm like, that's when you know you are in tune with the podcast. Like, I am so focused that I didn't even separate that from reality.
Yeah, that's good stuff. All right, so back to this. They make a point of saying research shows 7% of data security decision makers are concerned about breaches due to lost or stolen equipment, even though 17% of the breaches involve it. And a lot of people don't remember back in the day when you and I first started and we were trying to say, you know, y'all should worry about this technical security stuff. The cyber, the attackers, they're before 2016, we'll call it. Because I think in 2016 is when it changed. The number one data breach problem was lost or stolen devices. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was all of a sudden, like in 1 year, it went whoop. So we still have to worry about it. And that's still why it's one of the, 5 things under HICCUP that we have to do. So they did say from 2020 through 2023. So we're not talking back then. We're just talking over a 3-year period where there were plenty of cyber attacks going on. They still had 50 large breaches, so 500 or more, and the total of the 50 was still over 1 million people involved in stolen equipment and devices.
And that's probably not including the ones that people find in the dumpsters.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even
stuff like that.
Yeah. And if you look, I mean, the number of people that don't even realize there's PHI on some of the things that get stolen, that's a big thing.
So, I mean, I wonder if the ones where people sell the equipment that have PHI on it or donate the equipment that have PHI on it. I don't know that those fall under this, but that's still an issue.
It's lost.
Unfortunately.
You don't know where it went. It's lost. If you don't have control of the PHI, it's lost.
But it happens. It happens still. I have conversations, not as frequently, but people are like, oh yeah, I took my computer to the such and such geeks and they said it was broken, so I bought a new one. All right, well, where's the old one? Well, I left it there for them to dispose of. I'm like, oh, gosh. First of all, they shouldn't have had their hands on it to begin with. But I mean, God, man.
Yeah. So, they point out, a burglary, stuff gets broken into, stuff gets stolen. And, I when I'm worried about the security at my own Cardin headquarters, international headquarters, also known as Cardin Cave. I like that. One of my friends said that's what we should call it. I worry about where all the technology is because that's going to be the first thing that gets taken. It's easy to swipe.
Yeah, mine's not. There's so many cables.
I know. But, they just yank them. They don't care. Yeah. They just yank them. And, TVs are so big now, those are not things they can just grab and run with like they were for a while.
Yeah, but they're lightweight. They're just big.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a practice not long ago, and they were asking, well, do you prefer desktops or prefer laptops and, running everything through your laptop? And I said, well, if somebody kicks in your door or walks in the office, which one is easiest for them to grab and run out with? And they were like, okay.
Yeah. I work with some, I've worked with groups that their offices are in areas, particularly you get into some of these downtown urban areas, you're not shocked that things get broken into down there. There's a bazillion people all around. It's always something happening.
Mm-hmm.
So there's and I know you know what these are, but where you can essentially all the laptops have those little hooks where you can connect them to something that's mounted to the desk.
Yeah, like a bicycle chain.
Yeah. And, we have they had them on all of their laptops for that reason. So
I need to do that with my remote controls.
Oh, then you would know what you did with them.
I know. Well, usually I know what happened to it. The dog grabs it. And
all of a sudden the volume's going up and down and channels are changing.
And it's not because they're pushing on them, it's because they're chewing on them.
I know.
Because I've had this has been a contention in my household lately. Uh-oh. We're on the fourth remote we've had replaced in as many weeks.
Oh, which one's getting
it's Kai. Kai gets them every time. You sit them anywhere she can get to them. For some reason, she thinks it's awesome. She loves pushing the buttons with her teeth. So
put Tabasco sauce on there. That'll stop.
We're on our third Amazon remote and our second Dish Network remote in a month.
Okay. I would take those ones that have been destroyed, leave them there, put a little Tabasco on them. It won't take long.
So anyway,
there you go.
Side note.
Yeah. And it doesn't take much either. They'll run their little tongue on the carpet once that little bitty drop. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not talking about abusive amounts. I'm talking 2 drops, and once
I just have to
drop, it's fun.
I just have to remember not to put the remote in my mouth.
We're all over the place today. All right, so back to this. But here's another point that they talk about the lost or stolen devices. And it's not just the confidentiality that we have to worry about, because remember, you're supposed to worry about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And people always forget. They just focus on confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
You got to worry about all 3. And if they come in and steal some diagnostic equipment, a medical device that you use for treatment, something of that, and now we have so many of them, okay, now you've got an availability issue. You can't provide care. There's a problem. And as I said, they just yank stuff. Mm-hmm. They will destroy a place as they're grabbing stuff to get out. And the things that people will go get, looking for copper and all these other things inside them.
Yeah, and some of that stuff is expensive. I know I had a client one time that had an ultrasound machine, but basically it was a device attached to a laptop.
Yeah.
Just a standard Dell laptop. The problem was they didn't buy the laptop. They bought everything that included the laptop. And the company would not sell them just a laptop. And it was $40,000 for the new equipment and slash laptop.
Way. See, that's the...
Yeah, but imagine if somebody were to grab that laptop and run out the door with it. It's they look at it as it's just a laptop, but no, this is an ultrasound device.
Yeah, it's all one piece. And when it comes to those, you're absolutely right. For a litany of reasons that we could have a huge debate about, the vendors say, look, that device goes with that laptop. And when, we'll keep that laptop up and running, but we can't just give you a new laptop because our new laptops go with the new devices. And it's just a vicious cycle on some of them. All right. So now that you understand why they are pointing this out, which I think maybe the availability thing is coming into play. But they point out that this is no different than securing your home. You don't just lock one door and leave the others open. So you make sure that you have reasonable security in place, and again, it's reasonable and appropriate. But there are 4 addressable implementation specifications.
Oh, so that means I don't have to do them because they're not required.
You were right on cue there, buddy. Right on cue. No, that is not what it means. You don't get to go naked. You just don't have to wear the little black dress, cocktail dress. That's all. You don't have to dress up, but you can't go naked. So,
yep.
It is you need to figure out how to do these things in a reasonable and appropriate manner. So, the first one we talk about all the time, but we talk about it often in the respect of keeping systems up and running, which is contingency operations, also known as
business continuity.
Yes. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyway, contingency operations, business continuity. COBC. Anyway, you have to have in your business continuity not just, hey, the computers are down, but we can't get to the building where the computers are. We can't get to the building where the medical devices are. Yep.
We're coming into hurricane season, so I'm sure people will be experiencing this.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at, we haven't even had the rains, and where was it? It's up in the Northeast. They had record flooding where they were using boats to get around to buildings. If you've got a boat going down a street and you're not in Venice, something's up.
Selling tours.
Right? And a singing. But, it's the Cajun Navy. Those guys are cool. But if a tornado hits, lightning strike, you had a client where they had like a big hole in the
oh yeah.
What? I don't remember what it was. Something.
It was a lightning hit the building, and it was put a big hole in the building. I say big. I mean, it was 6-8 inches in diameter, which to me that's pretty big.
When it comes to a building having a hole in it, anything that you can see.
I was like, I wonder if there was a clock tower there.
Did somebody go back?
In the parking? Yeah, any DeLoreans in the parking lot?
Anybody?
Yeah, because it was perfectly. in that little part, where it's meets at the crest.
Yeah,
of the building, the gable or whatever.
Gable,
I don't know what it's called.
I was going to say fable, and I'm like, I know that's not right. One letter off. All right. Yeah. It just how those things occur. There's no rhyme or reason, so it's not like you can have, a specific plan for these kind of things, and you never know, like how bad it's going to be. It could be just a surge. Came back from vacation, the coffee pot no longer works. You're like, what happened? Oh, look, storms. But what if it's not that? What if it is the ultrasound machine and those kind of things that you have to know? How are you handling all of those issues for what could go wrong and it not being available? So they have a list. The primary purpose of contingency operations is to maintain physical security and appropriate access in support of data restoration activities. And often it's like, oh, well, we're just going to call IT and they're going to take care of it. No, that's not how it works. That's not how this works. And you need to consider, and then they have a pretty extensive list, quite thorough, and often will say, does everybody have access to the facilities and PHI that they need in a disaster or an emergency? Oh yeah, we can all get to it from the cloud. Okay. Do you do anything? Then why do you have an office?
Yeah. Or have you tested that?
Yeah. Well, these days, most people can say, yeah. Everybody's had to work from home. And
yeah. Well, sometimes they find out that they can connect to the cloud. The problem is that their equipment, for example, maybe their firewall or router, has a VPN site to site to somewhere else. And actually, they can't get to it from somewhere else.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all the pieces. How could you run your business if people can't get in the building?
Go to McDonald's, pull out your laptop, see if you can work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice and secure. Don't worry about that. Nobody will be messing with you there. Is there a process to provide expedited or temporary access to facilities and EPHI if needed? Now, this is one of the areas where, we've had clients who had to figure this out on the fly years ago. And because of what happened to them, they're able to go and say, no, you don't understand. This is way more complicated. You have to know where you could operate for 6 months while something's being taken care of, not just a week, a couple of days. I mean, you need to have a plan for a couple of days, a week, a couple of months, up to at least 6 months. Beyond 6 months, you may be in a whole new, hey, we're going to toss that aside, start all over, but you still got to be functioning. That or you're shutting down. And I don't think most people really grasp that. But I encourage people to talk with other businesses in your area that operate a facility and say, look, you're on the other side of town, or you're not by the river, but I'm by this, and and you work out a plan that worst case, I'm going to count on you to let me use some space and vice versa. That I will adapt, I will share space, I will do whatever needs to be done to help you should you need to relocate for a period of time. And I love that. Are there alternate means to access facilities in EPHI? In a boat. You get this high-end security, right? Where everything's digital. And this makes me paranoid here. because I have this really cool digital lock.
Mm-hmm.
If the batteries ever die where that thing won't operate, how am I going to get in? I am so paranoid about that. I have constantly reevaluating what my contingency plan is for the cool digital lock that lets me in the house to not work.
Interesting.
It is my job to do that and be paranoid, which, I still am not comfortable with anything I have planned. But the convenience of it is amazing. As long as it's like I'm constantly monitoring the batteries on that thing. Get the high-end industrial strength AAAs times 10, and anyway. And off we go into another rabbit hole.
She's got plutonium batteries.
Is there a plan to monitor facilities, meaning like security guards, if safe to do so, or otherwise secure facility access points that may longer be secure due to a disaster or an emergency?
Yeah, like somebody drives through your front lobby.
Yeah, I know stories about people driving through the glass front of a building accidentally. You're in a hurry.
You got smash and grabs, right? They bust out the doors and windows. I mean, how are you going to secure your facility when there's no door anymore or the window on the side is gone?
Yeah. We had a client that the facility that they had a secure storage space, and the facility, and I think I've talked about it before, the place next to it caught on fire, and the fire department, the water from putting that fire out ended up hitting their area. And so they had to clear everything out of it. And that was all happening on the fly. You just get a call. And somebody had to get over there and manage the information that was stored in there, because there's a ton of paper records, and be the security people until they could work that out. You get a lawn chair and a little umbrella, and you're hanging out there. So you have to be prepared to respond to those kind of things.
Yeah. The next one is the one they figure out on the fly.
Depends. Who's here? Yeah, go ahead. Hit the next couple. Yeah, you hit those.
So the next couple is who's responsible for the organization's contingency plans, and then who's responsible for implementing said contingency plan.
In each department and unit, I see, for the plan for accessing facilities and EPHI in each department and unit. Are you worried about the entire business?
Mm-hmm.
And often we're going to call IT.
Yeah. Can you get us back in the building? No.
Yeah. Well, we'll just call the landlord. Have you asked the landlord what the plan is?
Yeah.
Those are the ones.
Or better yet, the landlord is actually in a different state.
Yeah. I mean, do you even have the ability, that's where it I won't be the only one with the problem then.
Mm-hmm.
Your patients don't care that everybody else has the same problem. They care that you have the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Your clients don't care. They care that you have the problem. So who's in charge? And that's one of the things, when we go through the playbooks, and that was pretty interesting when we did in the boot camp, and we did our desktop exercise in the boot camp, and we put everybody into 2 teams. And, we have plans in these exercises to throw a wrench in it, these unplanned issues. But then the actual teams had unplanned issues. Somebody gets sick, somebody gets a call and has to leave. Things were happening while we're doing the desktop exercise that impacted the desktop exercise. So,
Yep. But that's what you're supposed to do, though. You're supposed to have, some type of plan about the types of potential disasters or emergencies that you might have. And it's funny that when you ask somebody these things, they come up with a normal, fire, flood, but they leave out some of the ones like civil unrest,
major power outage.
Yeah, power outage, active shooter. Even with cyber incidents, oftentimes they don't consider, okay, well, what is a cyber incident? You and I always we just start with ransomware and go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You plan for that. That'll cover a lot. You can kind of pick that apart if it's not ransomware, but it's something different. You can kind of use that as a baseline. But there's a lot of things, and you have to consider where your facility is. Is it in a flood zone? Is it in the path of tornadoes? Is it at a corner of an intersection where somebody could drive through the front door? Whatever those types of things are, you should have a plan for that.
Well, yeah, it's like, people don't realize, okay, we don't have plans in Georgia for earthquakes. Now, it can happen, but we don't have them. But do you know how many places in Georgia that are not on the coast have to have hurricane plans? It's like it's still a hurricane when it hits off the coast in the southeast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if a hurricane hits the panhandle of Florida, well up into wherever it hits, whether it be Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, anything that hits along there, when it moves off the coast, it's still a hurricane and can do substantial damage for a big distance into the states. So having a hurricane plan is not something, well, I mean, these days, if you live in those areas and you don't have a hurricane plan either, you ain't from around here. Or you just don't care, So, and then what activities, resources, and procedures are needed to carry out critical activities during prolonged interruptions to normal operations, like contracting for additional help to relieve workforce. Huge. People forget about that. Contracting for fuel deliveries for generators during extended power outages. Oh, our generator will take over. Okay, how long will it run without you?
Or even better, we'll buy one if we need one. Good luck with that.
I know, right? Because so will everybody else. I still every few months I go and evaluate putting in a generator at my house. Do you have one?
No, I have a generator, but it's not the one that's hooked to your house.
Yeah, I mean, like the Mac Daddy.
Yeah, no, my parents have one, so, but we don't have one. But we've got one that it's big enough to run, the refrigerator and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we just have to run one big drop cord in the house, but it can power pretty much, all the things we need.
Yeah. So I keep going back, and they're becoming more cost effective, and power outages are becoming a bigger issue. So I mean, but this is the thing that you should be thinking about. And if you have a type of business where people expect you to be there on a regular basis, and they might be okay for a day or two, but if you have patients that need regular care, you're talking the allergy clinics that do injections, the oncology. Oh, please, you need to know how you will help those people. So huge piece. Okay, so to me, that's the biggest gap that we find. Is that it's an inadequate or it's an non-existent or inadequate contingency plan. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, where are we? What's next, David?
Talking about the
second.
addressable implementation specifications.
Yeah, the second one is.
Yep. So the facility security plans, make sure that you have the policies and procedures to protect your facilities and equipment. And it's probably not a bad idea to train people on those before you need it.
Yeah. You need to.
So, it's the fire drill, right? Mm-hmm. Just do a fire drill, kind of like that. Yeah. What are you going to do?
Well, yeah, and you learn so many things, like when the people grab their stuff and leave, and all the patients are sitting there like, what's going on? And, we're having a fire drill. Really? Not a real one?
Wait right there.
Yep, we'll be right back.
Yeah, don't look at anything on my desk or on the screen.
We got to run outside. I used to love those when I lived in the dorms in the middle of the night. And you're freezing, standing out there. Everybody's like, is everybody accounted for? Okay, so surveillance cameras is another area that people like, we'll just put cameras up. Okay, are you recording PHI? So you have to think these things through when you do them. Mm-hmm. Tracking your inventory, knowing when people are coming and going. There's so many things, and having a plan for how you do these things is key. And then you train the people on it, yes, but you also review it. Mm-hmm. I love the ones where it's like we have a plan, but we've added a whole nother office since then. We knocked down a wall and connected to a whole nother office.
So when you're looking at the fire escape route, it's like, wait a minute, there's a wall here.
Yeah, there's that, and it's like, let's reevaluate. Designate a person to develop and implement the plan. Mm-hmm. If you don't have an owner of anything like that's important, somebody has to own it.
Yeah, if it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job.
True that. Yeah. And if it's only one person's job to do all of the things.
Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, what are you trying to do? You're just trying to kill them and test it, do your fire drills to make sure it remains effective. So that if somebody runs into a wall, first of all, I'm going to laugh. And,
yeah, as you run by them, make sure you document that.
Yeah, probably. Okay, the third thing. I keep shooting my mouse past all of these. Access control and validation procedures. Mm-hmm. We're talking about visitor access to software, all kinds of things, but it's more like I've got a contractor who comes and goes whenever they want. Mm-hmm.
It's the bug guy.
Yeah. Okay. And is it the same bug guy? I was standing in a client office one time, like, we're in the area where the staff comes and goes in that back area. And somebody just walks in and says, hey, and just keeps going. And they're not an employee. I mean, I know most of the employees, and I'm like, And then they come back and they're like, hey. Then they come back with like a load of paper or something. And just, they're stocking the paper for them. It's the office supply people. They're just coming and going however they want throughout the facility. Okay, I get it. Small town, Fred. I get that. But what if Fred's not there that day and he sends somebody else? How well do you know that person? And does Fred understand the importance of this? Or is Fred just letting, the nephew of the neighbor's brother, you know how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because when something happens, you'll hear, I can't believe Fred did that. We've known him for years.
I know. I always hate that when how many times do you hear that? I mean,
Every time.
Every
time something bad happens, it's like, he was such a great guy.
I didn't.
It's like all the good people do stuff bad. None of the bad people do anything.
I know. It's like
nobody's ever said he's a piece of crap. I can totally see him doing that.
Yeah, because you're going to hire the creepy, scary people. That's who you're going to have there on a regular basis and not worry about. Of course not. He seemed like such a nice guy. Never caused a problem. Yeah. But so you need to have policies and procedures, because if you don't write it down, everybody gets to make their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool when you're going to do like internships are great. Big fan of them. It's really cool. However, you can't just let people come and go as they please anymore. There's too many variables. Even if they don't intend. Because I read archaeology magazines and stuff, because nerd. And there's
see dead people.
There's a kid recently in a museum, and we're talking little kid, like toddler, who accidentally, and I can't bring myself to read it because it's going to be horrifying no matter what you do, but the article is there for me to read. Got it marked. But a kid accidentally destroyed a 13,000-year-old or a 3,000-year-old, some ridiculously old piece of pottery. Like maybe the only example that we had in the world of this particular style that was a complete piece.
Mm-hmm.
Destroyed. If they can do that to pottery, imagine what they could accidentally do to an ultrasound.
That's rough.
I know. So anyway, and you got to make sure you have an inventory. There's a reason. This is why you have an inventory. If you don't know that you have it and where it is, then how do you know if it's been stolen?
Very true.
Yeah. And then the last one is maintenance records. And this one drives people absolutely nuts. What?
Yeah.
Why do I need to care about that? I don't know. Why did this lock get changed? Who changed this lock? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even in my own house, I'm like, where did all these keys go to? And it's like they go to the past locks and vehicles that we've owned and don't own anymore.
Yeah. And you periodically just have to go and get rid of keys. This goes to my friend's house 3 houses ago when I used to go over and take care of their dogs.
I remember finding one. I'm like, this is like a Coke machine key. Why do we have a Coke machine key?
Yeah. So it is keeping up with that information. If you do anything that could change how somebody can get in and you don't know who did it, why they did it, and that they were trustworthy when they did it. And yeah, it's the creepy stuff, granted. Mm-hmm. But again, this is our job to come up with these obscure things to worry about. Mm-hmm. And yes, I know. I have all archaeology, serial killers. I'm gonna pay attention to anything that seems interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of times that you'll hear about these folks that installed security systems, and then they later are the ones that turns out that was breaking into places.
Yeah.
So, and God forbid you look at the movies where that's concerned.
They were testing it. They were testing the physical security.
Yeah. So you want to keep up with what's happening in your facility so that you're sure that the people that are in there are supposed to be in there, and they are the ones that are authorized to do what it is they're doing, and you know that they did it properly.
Yeah, simple. Let the right people in, keep the wrong people out.
And if you change something important, you know, I now have Simply Safe simply because it just creeped me out that I had to have all these other people connecting to my stuff. You know, it's even the internet providers. I'm like, don't worry about the rest of the house. You worry about getting a signal to this box. And then you give me control of that box and I'm out. You know, that's it. You make sure that's stable. I got the rest. Don't touch it. Same concept when it comes to the physical security is I want to make sure that if somebody, there was a guy I was working with one time, and he told me he was like the IT director of a facility, and we were working on, it was a law firm, and we were working on their plan for maintenance, just this stuff. And sure enough, they had back then had a data center, and somebody showed up and wanted to reconfigure the locks on the data center. That's what they were there for. No. The staff was like, well, without so-and-so approving it, we're not allowed to let you do that. Now, had he not had that in place, because he's like, I didn't ask for that to be done. Oh, well, we're supposed to do that, blah, 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 blah. Actually turned out, you know, it was a mistake. It wasn't nefarious. But had they let them do it, guess what? It would have been a big freaking mess. They were in the wrong place. But if they reconfigured the lock.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Yeah. So there you have it.
That reminds me of an ISP I had come out one time, and the technician logged into the modem, and I said, how do you keep up with all the different, you know, passwords, administrative passwords for, you know, all the different modems? And he was like, we use the same one for everybody. It's like,
okay. You could do that in the
90s. No, this was not that long ago.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm going to change it. He's like, if you do that, we can't get into it. That's the point.
Yeah.
If I need you to get into it and I forgot it, then we'll just reset it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But again, it's encryption is a key element. If it moves, encrypt it. And don't play around with securing your facility and who's allowed in it. Because there's always going to be a story of how horribly awry that went.
Well, if you think about it, now it does require physical access, but if I've got a place that I can physically walk into, instead of me trying to break through all the controls and security they may have in place, you know, online, it would be easier for me to walk in, figure out if there's something I can plug something into or have somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And then I've got access. That is much, much easier for me. So I'll take the USB stick and drop it. It says bonuses, Q4 bonuses or payroll or something that somebody will pick up and plug in or whatever. Heck, I could probably walk it up to the front desk and say, here, can you print this for me? And somebody will be so nice to plug it in so they could print this PDF for me. Or can you put my files on this USB drive, which I see people doing often.
Yeah.
You know?
And the answer would be, I would love to, but our security policies prevent that. You know? And that's the other thing is people are just so nice when I do the security walkthroughs. If you just smile and you're friendly, people will just let you go wherever you want.
Yeah. I mean, even the security guards, they'll be like, can I help you? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Okay.
Yeah. I like it when I'm doing that and somebody stops me and starts to get a little aggressive with me. I'm like, okay, first of all, you're making me nervous, but I promise you all we got to do is call this person. I'm here legally. I promise. But thank you for stopping me. You did good.
I say, do you know who I am? And just for a moment there, they go, oh God, this is somebody I shouldn't have stopped.
All right, but here it is. This is in their conclusion, David. They make a statement that is something that is near and dear to our heart, the way they say it.
Mm-hmm.
In the face of ongoing remote cyber attacks, regulated entities should not overlook facility access controls or, and here's the best part, regulate them to a, quote, check the box exercise.
Relegate.
Thank you. I was so excited about the check the box part. You know how we feel about it.
Yeah.
Relegate them to a check the box exercise. There.
That's right. Don't do that.
Don't
check the box.
Don't relegate any of this to a check the box.
No relegations here. All right, folks. That is our show for today. We were going to relegate to something else. So remember for Donna and myself that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right. Protect your patients day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with HIPAA. Let's get it right.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.